This conference will now be recorded.
Dynamic component. Creating the component dynamically. Right? So you can create a component dynamically in your client side by using the method $a.create component method. With the help of this, in your client side controller JS, right, you can create the component. Okay, when I say component, what does it mean? It's the component that you create in developer console, right? You create a component. The component can be created dynamically. So when I say dynamic, when you say static, then static means you create the component and uh, right, and you include this component over here. So when you preview this, what happens? The component compiled, isn't it? Suppose I have right many components in my application or in the component nested components. Then when you compile, then it takes loading time to load all the component uh, elements, attributes, isn't it? And but we are not going to use all the component elements in our application always, right? For example, I have an input form. Suppose I have an input form where I have each component, each form is rendered by a different component. Component 1, component 2, component 3. The component 2 and 3, the component 2 and 3, okay, in my application, I don't use frequently. I need this component, I need this form when particular condition is met. When particular condition is met, then I would I would capture the values for in the in the form 2. So component 3 again, no, I will render based on a condition. So unless I meet that condition, unless I meet my application meet that condition, I do not want no component to be rendered, right? The component 2 and 3 to be rendered without always by default. I do not want to render these two components, right? So in such cases, I do not want to include the component statically in my application, but instead I would like to create this component dynamically. Okay, load this component only when I need to render this. Load this component. I'm not talking about display the component. Display the component based conditionally. I'm not talking about display it. Even including this component dynamically, during runtime. So how can I do that? Able to follow this? The component in the beginning will not be there in the application. The component will not there be in the application. Instead, um, in the JS controller, we have client side controller, right? In the JS controller, with the help of the method $a create component, I'm going to create this component by invoking this method. Okay, so that's what you're going to see. So which component based on a event example, when I click a button, then create this component and render this component here. Create this component and render this component here. And this method has three different attributes. It will have three different attributes. One is the the type, okay, which component you are going to create, what is the type of component you are going to create, and and what are the attributes you are going to have in that component, and you'll have a callback function. We have callback function. So once a component is created, you like to perform something. Once a component is created, you like to perform something that will have it in the function callback. Okay. So what type of component you are going to create, and okay, type of component you create, and what are the attributes there in the component? Every attributes of the component. When you say attributes of the component, for example, I'm going to create the lightning button. Then what are the attributes we have in the lightning button? The label, value, isn't it? Label, name, okay, and on-click functions. So all those going to be an attribute. And once the component is created, what you like to perform, that's going to be the third argument. So the callback function itself has a 3 parameter that we'll discuss soon. So this is how we'll create it. So once this method is run, then you will see component can be created. Then how we are going to include this component? How we are going to include this component? There is a default attribute you will have for every component. The attribute is body of the body attribute. Every component has a body attribute. So once this component is created, we are going to push this component, right? Set this component to the body attribute with help of component dot set the predefined standard attribute we are referring, comma. So whatever the component we set here, right? That component we are going to place it here. That's it. So then the component will be rendered here. Okay, create this component and assign this component to the default body attribute of where you would like to place this component. Okay, so dynamically create this component based on an event. You call a method, there's controller, then within the controller you create the component and set this component to the default, predefined attributes of the component. That's how you place the component. So where you would like to place this, accordingly you will have this body attribute. Suppose I would like to place in a division. Then you will see like v dot. Will you follow this? Will you follow this? Got some idea? We'll see detailed uh, explanation now, demo now. Able to get this? Everyone? Okay. Right. So see here, there are 3 parameters we have, right? The type of the component to create. So what is the type you are going to create? It is a lightning button. And what are the attributes it's going to have that you are going to define in the second parameter? And function callback itself has a 3 argument. Itself has a 3 parameter. Okay. And which component we create, right? That component is going to be in this argument. What component we created? That component is going to be in this argument. Okay. And using which you can get the body of the component, you can get the status of the component. If the status is failed, for example, right, the status is basically applicable for 3 values: success, incomplete, error. If it is incomplete or error, if it is error basically, then you can see error message you can display. Okay, the status is used to check what is the status, whether the component is created successfully or not, because it's a callback function, right? It's a callback function which will run once the component is created. Okay, and the callback function has the 3 parameters, right? So can we see the demo now? right? How we are going to create the component? Dollar A component. Okay, and we have a set, and what is the type of component I'm going to create? That is one argument, and next is what is the properties, and then callback function. Callback function itself has a 3 argument, right? Right. Now the first one is what I'm going to create. It's going to be in the form of string. It's going to be in the form of string. Okay. Suppose I'm going to create a button and say lightning colon button. So what next? It's going to be attribute, right? So first is what component you're going to create, and next is attribute, next is callback. So here we have to give the attributes. So attributes must be given in the form of map, the value, no name value parameter. That's how we'll set the attribute, right? Map of attribute. So it's going to be in the basis, and so we need to give the label for the button. Okay, I give the label for the button, say submit, and I give the variant. So I give the variant like this. Okay, and so here within your callback, you can check what is the status of the the button creation, component creation, whether it's success or failure, whatever. Once it is successfully created, what are you going to do? Once it is successfully created, you are going to place this component in the in this body, right? You are going to place this component in this component. And click of this button, I'm going to create a lightning button. So that component is not included here, right? Only when the action is initiated, we are creating this component dynamically during runtime. We create this component. Okay. Now I'm going to check the status. If the status is, so there are 3 values are applicable, right? Status incomplete or error, success incomplete or error. So if it is success, then I'm going to place this component in the default body of your component. So I say uh, this is a default, right? Predefined attribute, and here I'm going to place. So first I have to get this. First I have to get this body, right? I need to get this attribute. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to get this attribute. Correct? I get this. I store it in a local variable. Okay, this is where I'm going to uh, push. It's a kind of array. No, it's a kind of array. Basically, when you get this attribute, it's going to display the array. It's going to get the array. So how do you push the element into the array? Push, and which component are you going to push? What are the component created? What are the component created? That is going to be assigned to this first parameter. What are component created? That's going to be assigned to this first parameter. So that's how I'm going to push. Okay. So now this is my JavaScript variable, right? JavaScript variable. So this variable I'm going to push to the component attribute, set to the component attribute. First you get the reference, okay, and JavaScript array variable, and push my component to here. Then I'm going to set it back to the attribute, I'm going to set this back to the attribute. That's it. If it is successful, I'll do this. Else, I say, okay. Else you can go with the error message also, error handling. Okay, you can go with error handling. Maybe if it is error, then display the error message. Because if it is error, then you will see the error message over here, right? Okay, it is else if it is equal to error, then I'm going to display the error. Okay, else if incomplete, and you will see if it is incomplete. No, this is a common status even in your callback uh, response. You remember when you call the apex, when it's incomplete, the status means you don't get any response from the server, or it maybe the client is offline. It may be any of these reasons. Okay, it can be a standard way you can handle your callback function status. Right. So now let's demo this. Any queries over here? Able to follow this? Very good here, everyone. So I have a button now. So no component is created. Okay, the component not created it. Okay, no compilation, nothing happened for the component. So component is going to be created dynamically now. When I click on this button, okay, when I click on this button, the component must be created. Okay, it's not created. It's labeled. Okay, new component, a regular component. Go for inspect. No component name. Then incorrect, right? That's a typo. No such component, right? 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 So because this will be created always. You will follow this. Now the component is created. You will follow this. Are you good here? Everyone? Are you good here? Okay. Right. How can you handle the function here? Isn't it? So we just include the button, but no action, right? So how normally we'll have action here? Maybe we'll have a on click isn't it? You have on click. So how can you create such component? So let me take similar example, but I will include uh, the action part here. Okay, so how can you include the action part? So this is my component, and this is again my uh, JS part. Now I'm going to include the action here. Right, sorry. So component dot, you get the reference. That's the method. Okay, you get the reference, and which reference you are going to uh, get. What reference you get? The reference is nothing but you are going to get the reference of the function. On click of this method, on click of this event, on click event, you're going to call some method, right? So where you are going to include this component, the component is going to be included here, isn't it? So then the component will appear here. When you click of this button, where the method will be there, where the method will be invoked in this JS controller, right? So I'm just going to include a method here. Okay. Right. Say, we're going to take this reference C colon. Okay. C, sorry, it's not C. C dot. It's not colon. Dot. Right. That's how we call the method. I think we don't have a semicolon there. Right. So component get reference. Which method? This method. The node will happen. The component will be included. Like on click equal to braces exclamatory C dot call dynamic, right? That's the equivalent. You get the reference here. Okay, we are not including a component statically here. Dynamically, you're getting components, so you get the reference. Then see. Right? Will you follow this? Will you follow this? Any questions here? Okay. Similarly, we have creating multiple components also. Okay, how to create a multiple components? A component inside a component. More than one component you create. The method what you're going to use is components. Create components. Okay, create component is a method. Multiple components you can create. More than one component. Okay, right. So suppose I am going to create an input form. Okay, I'm going to create an input form where I have my component dynamic. The component that I'm going to create is, it's going to have a where user will enter the name, city, okay, age, and it's also having a button. The button. So the form, I'm going to include a component, where it itself has a nested component, right? we have input, the input component, and the component has nested component, isn't it? Lightning input, age lightning input, and a button. So like this. So how can you create a nested component, multiple components? Then we'll go for create components method. dollar dollar create components method. Right. So let's see. Right. Right now here we're going to create. Okay. And so how we are going to create this? You see here, create component syntax. Maybe it's not given properly. So what exactly you have to do? You create a array of component, right? But what this array is going to have in our example, in our scenario, is going to have a 3 lightning input and 1 button, isn't it? 3 lightning input and 1 button. So if you see here, just go here and okay, I'm going to create a, a array variable. Either you declare it here directly to make it more simplified. You can create one variable first, the array variable. I just simplify this. I create a array variable. How will you declare array variable in JavaScript? Open square bracket initialize, so it's became an array variable. Okay, so in array variable, I'm going to push. I'm going to push, right? Okay, like this. I'm going to push each component. The first component is going to be a lightning input, right? And what are the attributes you have in the lightning input, isn't it? So it's going to have just a component attribute. Component attribute. Okay, so here I have label. Label. Okay, this is one. This is one element. And what is the next element? Again, I'm going to repeat this. Okay, and the name should be age. And what next? Okay, I'm going to include a button now. Submit. Right. I'm going to give more parameters here. what I'm going to give here, reference. Okay, suppose I have a method here. You follow this, all of you? Right? Okay, and this function I'm going to take the reference. Right. We take the reference and line number 22. Right. So we don't. Right, and more importantly, we just create the variable. We're not yet create the component, right? We just create the variable. Okay, we have to create the component. So how to create the component? First, uh, let's dollar a dot. How do we create multiple components? Create component. Okay, and so here we're going to have the components array. So whatever the variable you created, right? Whatever the variable you created. So that's what I'm going to refer here. Components array. Okay, the components array. Components array. See here. This. Okay. Automatically that's going to be here. Component. Components here. The first argument is a variable, right? Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, we are in right direction. Sorry. So the component variable, whatever variable you created, right? So that's variable I'm passing as the first argument. Okay. So uh, in this example, we just pass we just have one component here. So instead of having a nested array of components here, which will which will reduce the readability, right? You have all the array variable here. So instead, what we did, we just create array variable outside the before we call this component method. Create the array variable, then pass that variable here. Okay, and then instead, what you will do? You have to do like this, isn't it? You have to keep all the codes over here. It will not be right, which will reduce your readability, right? To not avoid that, I just create a variable here, and then we pass that variable array variable here. Okay, and next is you're going to have a callback function as we have in your create component method. Okay, so that's again going to have a reparameter, and one is your component, and next is the status and errors. Okay, so next is going to be like you'll have you need to get the body. Body attribute. You can make it a short uh, no way also you can do the coding, but for a detailed explanation, I just go like this. Okay, then I would say if state is equal to success, then we are going to push this to the body, right? So when you push this, we have to push component one by one, isn't it? Sorry, we have to push the component one by one because it's array. We know it's array variable, and we're going to push this. So how many components, elements we have in the array? 1, 2, 3, 4 elements, right? So we have to push by, okay, which is a component? Component, sorry, here. It's going to be here, right? Unsuccessful. So CMP, able to follow this? CMP 0. So 1, and so the array element start from index 0, isn't it? So finally the button I push. So once I push this, then what are you going to do? You're going to set this back to the attribute. Once a JavaScript variable set with the element, then we are going to push this back to the attribute, body attribute. Okay, very good. And the component, it's set call. Okay, I think we are good. Right, let's see. Okay. Okay. Components. Components. Right. Yeah. Okay. I think it's we got error. Right. Error message. Is there any? Okay. Array. Method. One element. Label. Oh, again is typo. Sorry. Right? It's typo. It's create components. Okay, we are talking about create components, not components. Components. And we create while page is loading. Yeah, you can create. No? While page is loading, how can you create? You should have arrow handler, right? Instead of button, you should have arrow handler init function. You can create the component, right? We'll follow this. Yes, right. Correct. We're able to submit. We get method is no. We got the component. The component is dynamically loaded, right? Nested component. Name, input, age, and buttons. Everything is dynamically uh, called. We'll follow this. Okay. How can you load the component when the uh, when you load the component? So all you're just going to have a RA handler. That's it. So you can dynamically call the component creation. Okay. Right. Okay. We'll follow this. Everyone is clear here. Okay. Now you create the component like this, right? But it is not necessary, right? It is not necessary. Suppose I have the component already. I have the component already in my uh, no in my I have already component created. That component I'm going to include. For example, you take this data table component. Okay, so data table component. What is the purpose of this component? It displays the account record. It displays the account record. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do, I am going to include this component. Okay, instead, how to create this component? You have to create everything, right? And you have to create this JS controller. But I do not want to do that. I have already component created in CMP file. I'm going to call this component dynamically, include this component dynamically. Okay, it's also a kind of dynamic creation, right? Instead of hard coding the component tag here, I already have that component data table. So how I'm going to include this? Guys, follow. Display accounts. Okay. So when a user click on this, then display the account, right? When user click on this, display the account. I do not want to have my old set of code, that responsible to create the table. I do not want to include here. Okay. So instead, right, I would like to load this component on button click. follow this, all of you. So what is the importance of dynamic to create the component dynamically, right? Which increase the performance of your component, right? Uh, unless you don't, uh, need to be rendered. It's not necessary keep all the components, loaded while load the run the component, right? I do not want to load everything. So when you click on this, then dynamically load this component. So this is a method, JS controller method. So here what we are going to, sorry, here we are going to create the dynamic, no? Create, right? Create component as 3 arguments. What is the type of the component? Okay, what is the type of the component? Within single quotes. See which component? Dynamic, data table example 1. And next is, what are the parameters here? Do you need to set any parameter here? No, right? So when you create a component yourself, then you will have set the parameter. Suppose I create lightning button, then you set label, RID, on click function, reference you would take, right? But here the component is a pre-built component, right? So no parameter. If it is no parameter, then you can make it null. But if you are passing any parameter, of course you can have any. You will have value here. If you are passing any parameter, right? Suppose when I run this component, I am passing any attribute. I'm passing an attribute. There is some, for example, the object name I'm going to pass. Then I would see, I would have an attribute here. So what is the object name, right? What is the attribute name? Sorry, accounts, right? Accounts equal to what is the attribute name we are going to pass, isn't it? But now we do not have any attributes, so it's going to be null. Okay, then callback comes. Remember, you can have any type of variable, right? You will follow this, all of you. Correct. And then we get the reference. Okay, then push our component. The newly created component will be here, isn't it? Here. So when you are going to push this, maybe I'm successful creation of this component. Then you are going to push this. Okay, then once it is pushed, then we're going to set this. Okay, so as a best practice, you can have all this set of code. Like this. Okay, then let's do this. Platform. This. You follow this. All of you. Are you clear? Everything is clear here. What you're trying to achieve here. Is this clear? Okay. There are few more topics we'll see. Then we'll start the project. Okay. Or a component project we'll do. Then we can start with the LWC, Lightning Web Component. Okay, and Lightning Web Component, I'm about to start uh, maybe couple of uh, 10 days, couple of weeks later. In 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, we'll be able to complete the project. Maybe 7 days from now, we'll be able to complete the Aura Component project. Okay, with the help of whatever knowledge you gained, we're going to uh, work on implementing the project. Okay, Lightning Aura Component project. So next to that, we're going to start our Lightning Web Component. Okay, so Lightning Web Component, I'm going to take the full day session. How about you guys? We'll complete in 5 days time. That's going to be a detailed session, 40 hour, almost 30 hour session. But when you connect for LWC every day morning 7 a.m., that's going to be a level 1 type of course. Okay, which means because we combined it, right? We combine these two, and so level 1 can only be taken. Level 1 scope only you will find in 7 a.m. batch, because it's again a separate course, right? The whole thing again you have to connect for another 20 days, which is which cannot be done with this batch. Okay, but I would give an offer to you. You can go through the whole detailed course, but provided you attend the whole day uh, you know the session, morning 9:30 to 5:30, just 5 days session. So any day you missed, of course you can catch up the videos. I will share the videos, but it is for your benefit. Okay, will you be okay that okay for it? Okay for that, so that you will be able to get more stuff in 5 day session. Instead, you connect for another 10 day session. 10 hours hardly, right? 10 hours or 14 hours, but here it's going to cover around 25 to 30 hours. So anything you missed, maybe you can catch up through videos. Is that fine? So once your project is done, then you can word with Lightning Web Component whole day session. Right? Any response? Chat. Okay. So try to any response. So try to catch up. In your free hours. I've always been offline, online, and you can catch up and join, and you can, right? So like that you can uh, listen the session. You have to speak out. Why you people are not speaking out? Not miss anything? No message or some any response? I'm audible. Hello. Right. Let's connect tomorrow.